Lights, camera, action.
Greetings and salutations, boys and girls. I am Max here for Mellow Media. Welcome to our first official music tutorial. The aim of this channel is to help you make the music of your dreams and hopefully make some money in the process as well. Now, I wanted to kick it off with something a little bit different. We are going to get to my attack and release settings, how I essentially do things, my methodology, my philosophy. We're going to get to all the techniques that I use in creating a mix. But I wanted to do something just a little bit different today to celebrate our first episode. And speaking of a mix, today's featured mix is by Lindiwe Mnisi. The song is called Uyisi Manga. Let's check it out.
Uya pila gimi Angka pila gua Uya semangka Oh ya, pila gini. Ay, angka pila gua. Oh ya semangka. Lord Jesus, my God.
Alright, like I said, that is Lindiwe Mnisi. I'll put her name on the screen. I'll put the name of the song on the screen as well. Go and check her out. Show her some love. Tell her that I sent you. Now, as you can hear, this intro part has a lot of atmosphere and vibes. This is the first song that I mixed on the project, and when I heard the opening bit, I knew that this is something that I needed to sell to the client. I knew that the client would want all of that atmosphere, vibes, and euphoria to come out to give the listener a sense that they were there on the night. This was less about being technically correct. It was more about having situational awareness and really meeting the moment and bringing out basically the essence of what was going on. Now, you would think that the atmosphere, the vibes, the shouting, the screaming, the chanting is coming from the crowd mics. In this case, you would be incorrect. In most cases, you would be correct. But I had to employ special methods in this case in order to bring the message, the most salient message across. So the most unlikely source that the vibes came from is the lead vocal. When I started mixing this lead vocal, I experienced a lot of problems. There was a lot of bleed in this lead vocal. It made the day one of mixing essentially very unpleasant. That is because when the singer was performing on the stage, as you can see, there are wedges here, and the crowd is actually quite close to where the singer is performing. So what I did was I exported the lead and I cleaned it up with Spectral Layers, which is free in Cubase. I essentially then solved the main issue, which was the bleed, but I created another problem. The vibes were gone. This is when I thought, what if I keep both leads? What if I keep the dirty lead and I keep the clean lead? And what I actually do is when I need the bleed from the lead that was recorded on the night, that I keep that. And when I need the vocal to be clean because I need more definition from the mix, then I use the cleaned up lead. Let's actually listen to it so that you'll hear how I use the bleed from the lead vocal to greatly add to the ambience, the vibe, the euphoria on the night. So we're gonna just zoom in here. Let me put my headphones on. I'm just gonna zoom in here And then you'll see there are two leads. Let me color this lead differently so that it's easy to identify. Right, so this right here is the lead that was recorded on the night with all the bleed. Let's listen to some of that bleed. Here's another part over here. So you can hear there's a lot going on. There's a lot of good stuff that I want to keep. And the lead here in purple is essentially the lead that I cleaned with spectral layers. So essentially getting rid of all of that, all of the stuff that I don't want. So the next place we are going to take some vibes from are the backing vocals. Now, what I know about especially African gospel, there is a lot of ad-libs, a lot of the cheering, the shouting, the atmosphere that you are hearing that usually comes from the backing vocals. This is very typical of African gospel. So let's just listen to some of the things that the backing vocals did that I wanted to highlight and keep. Let's just fast forward to, yep. All right, so you can see that there is automation on the BVs as well. So there are parts where they're not really singing and it's just vibes. And I needed to listen to the whole backing vocal take so that I can bring that out. And over here, as you can see, there's a big bump over here where there's stuff that I wanted to bring out. Let's listen to some of that. Shululu, hey hey. Let's listen here. So you can hear that the backing vocals are adding quite a bit to the vibes, to the atmosphere, and it's all stuff that you want to keep. You don't want to take that out. It actually renders this type of music quite sterile. Another unsuspecting source that I took some bleed from are the drums. Now this is not as intense as the lead vocal mic or the BV mic, but what I would suspect the overheads would be catching a lot of this atmosphere as well. Let's listen. I hope that is coming through. So I use the drums as well. The crowd and ambience is not as punctuated as it is in the other mics, like the lead mic and the backing vocals mic. But it's still there and it adds to the overall sound of the ambience that I wanted to create. So the last place and the most obvious place would be the crowd mics. Now, as you can see, there is automation on the crowd mics, and I needed to essentially pick my spots and pick my moments. Over here, for example, I ramp into the place where the crowd starts to applaud and they essentially erupt, and the little bits in between that you are hearing. So let's just have a listen to that. Let's solo the crowd mics and let's have a listen to that. So something that you might have noticed is the crowd samples I have over there. And what these crowd samples serve to do is just merely augment the vibe. It's not meant to replace or supplant the crowd that was there on the night, but it really just adds to the vibe. So just to show you, I'm going to mute them and then I'm going to put them back on and then we can hear what they essentially add. So I'm going to mute them. Let's play that section again. Now I'm going to switch the crowd samples back on and we hear what they add. So as you can hear, they just add a little bit of applause. They add a little bit more energy to the already very raucous and, like energetic crowd mics, right? Like I said, it's not meant to replace it or anything. It's just meant to create more vibes. And this is a little life hack, little trick that we as engineers have been using for a long time to especially make it seem like the crowd were more into it than they were, even though this crowd was really into it. Now that you essentially know what's going on in this mix and this opening exchange, let's listen to a little bit of it again, and then you can really appreciate how you could use more creative techniques to bring out a message. All right, so there's just one last thing that I wanted to show you to really drive home and punctuate the situational awareness that this mix required. So as you can see, there's a lot of ambience, how I edited the lead to keep some of the bleed, keep some of the ambience. You can see here, this is places where I needed the clean one. And this is generally places where the full band's performing and the BVs are singing. Let's just listen to that, what that sounds like. All right, so when the full band's performing, the clean lead is playing, as I don't want the bleed from the lead vocals, right? And then we go sort of into like normal mix mode. But there are places where I want the bleed to shine because the singer is dancing. She is interacting with the crowd. They are having a good time. And I want the sense of the atmosphere to come through. Let's listen to this piece of bleed that I kept here and essentially made part of the mix. All right, you have quite a few spots like that throughout the mix, as you can see. Let's just take it over there, over there, over there. And one thing they all have in common is whenever you have these spots where the bleed is shining and the atmosphere is coming through in conjunction with obviously the backing vocals and the crowd mics, I automated the delay down. Now what I didn't want is this bleed to further, not quite reverberate, but echo. I wanted just a bit more definition for the band. That's what I wanted, but more definition for the band that's playing. Because the trade-off is when you are emphasizing the bleed and the atmosphere in the room, the band and the music loses definition. But this was not a mix where you're trying to get the band super clean, tight, and slamming. This was sort of like a trade-off and a balance between the atmosphere and the punchiness and definition of the band. So some trade-offs had to be made. And as you can see here, this is my eighth delay, and this is my quarter delay, which is quite typical of lead vocals. And where I need this bleed to come up, that's when I automate it down, and where I need the lead to have that temporal and spatial effects, they are on. That's something very important to note and keep in mind when you do this kind of thing. All right, boys and girls, that was the first Mellow Media tutorial. We can check that one off. So much more to come. Next week, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into my mixing philosophy, my mixing methodology, how I essentially get things done. I promise you that you will have fun. I promise you that you will learn a lot. I trust that you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that this is something that you will consider using in your workflow and in your mixing philosophy and methodology. Don't be shy to hit the buttons on whichever platform you are seeing this. Like I said, more episodes are coming, so if that sounds like a good time to you, don't be shy to hit the subscribe and the follow button so you can be notified when I drop new content. I guess this will be the first time I say it, and I guess this is how we're gonna sign off. Love what you do and do what you love. Peace.
Right, cut. That's a wrap. Let's go home, guys.